What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the first Christmas film that I'm checking out here in 2024, and that film is called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Directed by Dallas Jenkins, who wrote this film alongside several others. This film stars people like Judy Greer, Pete Holmes, Molly Bell Wright, Beatrice Schneider, and more. So I just got home from an early screening of The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. This is coming from director Dallas Jenkins, who's well known in the world of faith-based films and is most notably very popular because of his work on a TV show known as The Chosen that tells the story of Jesus and the disciples. I've heard it's actually really good. I've never gotten around to it, but many people have told me it's really, really good, whether they're religious or not. And my mom was pretty excited about this one, who came along with me to this early screening today because Dallas Jenkins was going to have a bit of a preview ahead of the film, showing a little bit of footage from the upcoming season of The Chosen, but the film also kind of had this little bit of a behind the scenes thing tagged on ahead of it, where we got to hear a little bit from Dallas Jenkins as well as some of the other people involved in the film, like Judy Greer and Pete Holmes, as they talked about the behind the scenes of this film and what it was like kind of making this film. It was a nice little behind the scenes thing ahead of the movie starting, and going into it, I really didn't know much about this, but I had read before going to see it that it was based on a children's novel that came out in 1972 and was written by Barbara Robinson, and in 1983 it did get a short TV movie adaptation. And so this was actually a film that Dallas Jenkins had wanted to make for almost 2 decades, as he mentioned in the early behind the scenes footage before the movie started playing. And so going into it, I was just hoping for a good Christmas time. I'm a sucker for a good Christmas film. A lot of times they're fairly predictable and conventional. They don't really ever do an abundance to really shake things up and create groundbreaking narratives, but I don't always think that they need to. A lot of times it's about feeling when it comes down to a Christmas movie. So going into this, I was just hoping to feel that Christmas spirit, as somebody who in my older years finds that Christmas spirit a little bit hard to kind of tap into. Something that is notable though is that this film very much is being made with the lens of somebody who is, religious. It does have that faith-based audience in mind, but I will say, as somebody who grew up in religion and grew up in the Christian world, while this film very much leans into a faith-based audience kind of outlook, the film also does a lot to not alienate people who aren't religious, and in and of itself, I think this movie captures the Christmas spirit in a lot of ways. Before we get into my personal opinions on the film, let's get into what this movie is all about, and let's talk about some of the technical aspects of this movie. The movie opens up when we're in the town of Emmanuel, and they have their upcoming annual Christmas pageant that's going to be done at the church that happens every year. Unfortunately, the director who does it every year and likes to keep it the exact same way every single year has now broken both of her legs, and unfortunately is not going to be able to direct this play. That's when Judy Greer's character Grace ends up reluctantly finding herself directing this play that also has her daughter and her son in the mix. And over the course of the film, she must try to rally together a group of kids to try to put together this play that people don't necessarily know if she's ever really going to be able to pull off. And the most notable thing about this is that there is a group of kids that we're introduced to in this film known as the Herdmans, who are essentially known to be the worst kids in town. They don't go to church. Their parents are really never seen. They're known for being dirty, rambunctious. They like to steal things. They like to smoke. They're known for being messy, crazy, all over the place kind of kids. And these kids end up going to this church in search of food. They just want to go there and get snacks, and end up finding themselves roped up in this pageant. And at first, their whole outlook is to kind of just take over it and do things as they want to, but as time goes on, they find themselves finding a sense of community and finding themselves more and more invested in the idea of being in this pageant. Over the course of the film, though, Judy Greer's character Grace must struggle with the fact that a lot of the parents and a lot of the congregation at this church does not want these kids to be in the pageant. They think they're going to ruin it for everybody, and so she does what she can to really whip them into shape, but give them a sense of community to kind of show the rest of the church that these kids should be given a chance to be a part of this pageant, even if they don't come to this church frequently, and even if they are looked at as some of the more, troublesome kids in the area. At its core, this film is about acceptance, and I think that as somebody who grew up in the church, I really appreciated the fact that this film didn't shy away from a lot of times the hypocrisy and the judgment that can happen from individuals who are in the congregation. It's a congregation that a lot of times can be all about love and acceptance, but can easily be turned to judgment into something where it's not at all about acceptance. And I think that this film didn't necessarily shy away from that. And while this film very much is made with the perspective that a faith-based audience can go and watch this film, something that's clean for the family, family, something that's not trying to push any sort of agendas outside of religion in particular. I think that this is a film that, for the most part, at least still captures the idea of the Christmas spirit, and when it comes down to joy, love, unity, and community. And I think that that's where this film really shines. When it comes down to the technical aspects, I think this is a conventionally made film in pretty much every way. There's nothing about it that is groundbreaking when it comes down to narrative, cinematography, lighting, or anything like that. I think this is a pretty straightforward, competently made film. And when it comes down to the writing, I kind of feel the exact same way. This isn't anything that really took me to the next level, and I don't necessarily see this film kind of making its way into my yearly rewatches when it comes down to Christmas films. With that said though, I think that this film did its job. It had a message about a group of kids who are rambunctious, who come into this pageant. Nobody wants them to be a part of it. They think they're going to ruin this yearly annual thing that's known for being the same way every year, this cookie cutter thing. And they come in and they kind of make it their own. And while there are a lot of times where they're struggling to kind of keep these kids in order, they're struggling with, these kids having even an understanding of the nativity story that this pageant is all about, it ultimately is about them learning to kind of give these kids a sense of community, letting them be themselves and find their way in this church and in this pageant. And I thought that the film, for the most part, really captured that part of the film really well. While I felt that the first part of the film was a little bit just overly conventional and incredibly predictable, while it was still predictable by the time it got to the end, I thought that it tugged on my hearts in the right way and very much gave me that Christmas spirit that you want from a movie like this. With all this said, I think this is a film that is going to be divisive for some people, even though I do think it's a pretty straightforward, very harmless and cute film in a lot of ways. After having seen the film, I went on Letterboxd to read through a couple of reviews for people who also saw it at early screenings today, and there were some people giving it 4 to 5 stars, saying that it's a beautiful Christmas movie about unity and this, that, and the third, but there were also some people calling this film Christian propaganda that were giving it much lower scores. And I find myself somewhere in the middle. I don't think that this film is flat out religious propaganda. I do think it very much is made for a faith-based audience that's going to go to this film to take their kids to something safe that they know that's going to be, within the realm of what they want their kids to see. But at the same time, I don't necessarily feel like this is a film that's cramming religion down your throat. I think it's a film that, like a lot of other Christmas movies, focuses on things like the nativity story and the various themes that come around Christmas when it comes down to unity, joy, love, and compassion. And I think that this film really captures all of those things. Now, when it comes down to performances in this film, I think that all the adult actors in this film do a pretty solid job, with Judy Greer definitely having a lot of heart and charm throughout the course of the film. I think Pete Holmes is pretty solid in this film. While he's not given an abundance to do, I enjoy his role here. And when it comes down to majority of the cast, they are kids, which can be a little bit hit or miss. You never know what you're going to get from a kid performance. Sometimes they can be riveting, but sometimes they can be a little bit goofy. While I do think there are parts about this movie, when it comes down to some of the dialogue and the way it's delivered, some of it comes off a little goofy, which did oftentimes give me a little bit of a chuckle. But there were a couple of performances that I do think were pretty solid here, with the standout of the young kids performing here being the character of Imogen, who is Beatrice Schneider's character. She is the oldest of these Herdman kids, and she's the one who's going to play Mary in this pageant, and she's the one who's trying to act the toughest. She's the one that's kind of leading the charge of her brothers and sister, and she's the one that people tend to see as the roughest and toughest of the bunch. And as time goes on, you kind of start to realize that she wants that sense of community more than anybody else, but she feels like she kind of has to wear this, strong exterior and be the tough one who is willing to kind of, piss people off and offend people without necessarily, showing them her vulnerable side. And I think the young actress here, Beatrice Schneider, did a great job of conveying a lot of nuance when it came down to this character. Do I think that these performances and the characters in general are written to be incredible? Not necessarily, but I do think the heart of the film really lies with the character of Imogen throughout the course of the film, and I think that Beatrice Schneider really captured a lot of the moments that actually made me feel a little bit emotional while I was watching the film. Anything that really tugged on my heart had to do with that character, and I think her performance is without a doubt the main reason for that. So I was surprised by some of the kids here, and ultimately by the time the movie got to the end, I felt like it was a cute, harmless watch that I think a lot of families who are going to look for a safe movie to take take their kids to that isn't, you know, vulgar in any way, and it doesn't have any things in it that is outside of the parameters of safe for kids. I think this is a film that a lot of families will enjoy. I think a lot of religious families will enjoy it as well. I like the fact that this film didn't shy away from the hypocrisy that can sometimes be in the church. But ultimately, with all that said, I don't also think that this film is a groundbreaking Christmas film. By no means is this going to become a Christmas all-time favorite for me, but it may for some people. So I look forward to hearing the various opinions on this one. I think if you're looking for a fun, safe Christmas movie to take your family to in this holiday season, you definitely can have a good time with this cute and charming film right here. So that's going to be my thoughts on the best Christmas pageant ever. Leave some comments down below. Did you like this movie? Did you not like this movie? If you haven't seen it, are you planning on checking it out? Whatever the case may be, leave any and all comments down below, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one. I know we're not really there yet, but I guess Merry Christmas. We'll see you guys soon with more reviews here on the channel for some more Christmas stuff as we get closer to the holiday. See you guys later. Bye-bye.